And joining the podcast now is an old friend of mine. He is the equipment manager for the Coventry Blaze, Ethan Kane. Ethan, how are you, mate?
Good to see you, mate. I'm all good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. So,
Good
wanted to
man.
get you on really because the equipment manager's job for me, I've seen you do it. I've seen everyone else kind of do it in the league. It's not an easy job, but we'll go into that. But let's talk about you and your background for people who don't know of ice hockey. How did you get into it? What is your background?
I've always been a long time fan of the Coventry Blaze, from back to when, like 2003, 2004, up to when like Stewie was playing for the team. And uh, funnily enough, I was actually just watching that Untold Crime and Penalties podcast. So I was just
Oh,
thinking of documentary. So I was just thinking of players like Ruben Nadir and stuff that are on there and Carlisle Lewis. So that's back to my kind of like watching days. And then fast forward like 10 years, I still watched, still kept up with the sport, started playing it myself, and then I worked for the ice rink for a little bit. Um, Ended up leaving the ice rink, then going to work for one of the Blaze sponsors at Coombe Abbey, and then Stewie actually running into me whilst we were there. And Smalley had wanted to retire for years, but they never found a suitable replacement. So he kind of like made a laugh and a joke and said, "Do you want to come? Do you want to come and take a job interview for equipment manager?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" So I came in, and honestly, like they said, it was going to be like a years long training with Smalley, but he had enough at that point. He'd been around for years, so I had like 2 to 3 weeks of training, and Smalley was gone. Like Smalley was retired, and yeah, like any equipment manager will tell you, you will find. There's nothing, you can't fully train for that job. Like there is something every day, every week that will hit you that you've never come across before. Things that you wouldn't even imagine to think about. So no matter how much training you can get for a job like that, you're gonna run into new things. So no amount of training can prepare you for a job like that.
when does your season start? What's your first few days of getting back into a new season? Or do you actually switch off at any point?
Does this mean that the following season ended? Because uh, it's a tough one. There's 10 of us. There's 10 of us in the country that do it at the elite league level. A couple of teams have a couple of other guys, but we all have assistants and stuff, which honestly just don't get the recognition as well. They put in a graft. So some guys will literally do 4 weeks before the season starts, up until honestly like the last day of playoffs, maybe like a week after playoffs. Some equipment managers will work 52 weeks of the year, like myself. Um, I've took a much bigger role, especially the summer just gone, because of some departures and stuff. So I I would say I probably took a week off max in the summer, like fully, not all in one go. I'll take like a day here, a day there. Had to fit Taylor Swift in at some point, so that was fun. But you're just not. There's so many things that people don't think of. So we changed from using CCM equipment after the whole time we've been being there to them going to Warrior, and Warrior are situated in Germany. So it genuinely was like learning a whole new language. Like I'd get sent 60 pages of German, and it's like these things that you have to work around. And every new player that you sign is different. Like you have 20 guys from before, you have all their stuff documented, their sizes, how they have their skate sharp and the length of their sticks, what curve they use, what flex their stick is, what handedness they are, different different things that they have to like their shin pads, how they tie their laces. So many silly things that you just document because you never know what's going to happen. Like a lace could snap on the bench and you've got to sort it. A guy could break his stick, he doesn't have a spare, you've got to get a spare. So there's books and documents and spreadsheets galore for most equipment managers. Um, and it's it's crazy when you start signing new players and then you have to do all of that all again. and we had quite a big turnover. So
We
we had
did,
what
yeah.
15 new players
Yeah.
this year. 15 new players, and to be honest, I'd done a lot of our returning players and some new guys. I actually put them through the whole CCM equipment, and then we had our change quite late on in the summer.
Mm.
So I then had to go back, and everything I'd done then for them for the 6 weeks was effectively gone. So I had to start again, as well as all the other things that we were doing with the helps of like Rob and Megan from the office. Like we did all the housing, and that's like emptying houses, finding new houses, furnishing houses, um, cars, all of that as well. It's honestly like a 24-hour job because
Talk about the housing because I've been and helped out in the past and moving players in, and as the house that you've got this year doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have it next year because you only obviously want it for 9 months as well. You don't want to be committed to the 12 months. But how difficult is the housing to do?
it's very it's very particular as well. You can't just go to a property and be like, okay, this is the three-bedroom property. That's good for two guys. You never want to put like two guys in a two-bedroom property unless it's like a big apartment or something like that. But you have to be very, very mindful of their family. How often their family is going to come over, if they're doing school, if they can drive using a gear stick or not.
Yeah, true.
'Cause a lot of players will come over that they don't want to drive a car at all, so they want to live close to the rink. Uni guys need to be close to the rink. Um, and it all genuinely nails down to what their contract was signed with, like with the coach, like what the coach had offered this player. Like each player has a unique package, and a lot of fans don't see that, which is fine. But it can be very challenging. Like our biggest challenge this year was trying to find a property that would take a dog
Hmm.
for our assistant coach, and a lot of things have changed. Like last year, we could have probably found five properties that would take a dog, where this year we could only find one, and unfortunately, that has to be a little bit further out for Zach. However, turned out to be a really nice property. So, but then moving that property in completely unfurnished, it was it was fun because you have to find all this furniture. We have storage facilities for some furniture, but um went from we went from having to house, I think it was 9 houses last year, to having to do 13 this year
Mm.
because we had the extra import.
Yeah.
Um, like a player come in with his partner, so that's an extra house which he needs to be by himself. And then you know, uh, Kino used to live with players before, and then Stewie always had his own house where Kevin was new and Zach was new. So those were houses on top of there. So we didn't have all this inventory. So we were very, very thankful for IKEA. I'm very, very thankful for Facebook Marketplace. We did some hours have been logged on the old marketplace, and that van has put in some miles this summer. But it's very good once it's all done. And it's why I've been to other teams and I've looked around other places, and I don't think anyone understands the kind of graft that you put in at Coventry, and the teamwork that we have is unmatched. So I appreciate everyone in the office. Kevin got involved, Zach got involved. Um, Massive applaud to Pountney, like non-stop. He's obviously has his own job as well, but as my assistant, he
He's a good egg.
bails me out all the time, helping out with things. So housing in general is tough. It's a really difficult thing to do. It's not a one-man job. And I think there's a good few equipment managers in the league that get involved in housing, but it's not their primary role. Where this has kind of been squeezed into my role now. So it's fun though. I like it.
It's
So
also a brand new time for you as well because you've only known Stewie and Keno, and now you've Kevin and Zach come in. What have they come in and said to you, and how they want you to be within the team? Because you are a character. You get to know all the lads, and Kevin and I've not met Zach yet, but I've met Kevin, and he just seems like a guy you want to work with.
100%. Like I'm always a guy that doesn't really like change, and I'm very very particular in the way that I do things. I like my routine every day, but with the amount of things that were changing, I'm just glad that everything changed together. So, we changed the equipment. We both coaches changed, of course. Equipment changed. Obviously, we changed a lot of housing. We changed our bus company. We changed the way that we did catering. Um, but it's as hard as it was in that sense. It's also very exciting to have like a clean slate, and doing this role and not knowing was kind of like the worst part, but also the best part. It was like I only ever knew how to do it that way.
Hmm.
So it was very exciting to kind of look forward to how it could be this way. And don't get me wrong, there was at points where I was really like I was quite anxious and nervous about it. Like, what if it's 10 times worse?
Mm.
And there is no way, in no means am I saying it's better, but it's different, and that's fine. Like, things
Yeah.
change, and it is really good. It's the same the way that they've come in, and the way that they've adapted to their roles, and the way that we work together as a four, that fourth being Pountney. Like, we're very close, us four, in getting things done. And like, there's no one's kind of glued down to have to do something on like by themselves. Like, there's support, and there was support before, like last season as well. There was the support there from Stewie, like, massively. But it's just nice knowing that you can come in and there's support there, and that everyone's on board. That's the main thing. Everyone's on board, and always helps that Kevin signed a team full of generous, lovely guys as well. That always helps.
Well,
Um,
it's one of his main points, wasn't it, on
that is,
recruitment?
yeah, 100%, and that was huge. Um, but yeah, it was a tough adjustment at first, but then the way that Kevin is as a person, and his reassurance and his communication, and the way that then Zach come in and adapted to that role as well. You kind of just get back into the swing of things. It's always fun when the hockey starts getting played, especially like even if it's just practice. It's the stuff leading up to that, which is where and this is what I think every equipment manager will say, that's where the anxiety is, because you just don't know. And that's the worst part of just not knowing, like, if anything's going to go wrong, if you've missed something. Like, we just had our first away game at the weekend, and it was so nerve wracking leading up to it, because
Yeah,
it was
'cause
like,
didn't
because
get
we
anything
hadn't
pre-season, did
packed.
you?
Yeah, like, we hadn't packed anything for an away game for 5 months. So it was like, right, what are we missing? And actually, we didn't miss a single thing. But it's one of the things. It's like you rip off the band-aid and you're fine, and that's exactly how it felt. And after those first couple of games we were in, after that first weekend against Milton Keynes and Essen, it just felt normal after that. So I'll obviously always have my feelings and my sentimental values towards my years before with Stewie and Keno, but times change, people change, everyone's entitled to do their own thing. So I respect it from every angle. Good for those guys, good for us. So,
Yeah.
but no, I massively respect them two coming in, and what they've done, and the values that they've put in place is huge.
You mentioned first away game. Talk me through, I know, a weekend where we're up in Scotland on a Saturday, at home on a Sunday. When does it all start? How difficult are those days when you've got to travel that far distance?
It's so I think for the players, especially when they first do it, and it's weird, and I feel like you have to be some sort of crazy to do this job as it is. Um, you're pretty much fueled off coffee half the time anyway. But by the time, think one thing that people don't think as well is when you come back from an away game, you get back. It's like, okay, you get back and you drop your kit off and you leave. The players get back, drop the kit off, and they leave. The equipment guy has to unpack all the stuff that they packed, and then they've got the sweats to wash. So that's two washing machines on a 40-minute cycle. Then you've got 20 towels, 20 sweat towels, bench towels, jerseys, socks. Can't tumble dry jerseys, you hang dry jerseys. So you've got all that as well. Then you've got if it's the catering stuff, you can't leave the catering stuff dirty in the flight case overnight, so you got to get all that cleaned. Then you got to put the fans out. So while you're waiting for washers, you may as well get some skates done if there's skates on the board. And then you kind of want to set up for the following day. So usually any away game, when you get back, the equipment manager will add 2 hours onto that on top. So there's times when we get back from Scotland and it's 4:30, 5 in the morning. I'm probably going to be getting into bed at 7 a.m. Or sorry, I'll probably be leaving the rink around 7 a.m. Figure skaters are already in, the music's already on, the coffee's already going. So a lot of the time it's like, right, should you even go home or should you just power through? But I always made from my first season, I always made a point of, unless it's something like Belfast where I have to stay, I go home, even if it's to get a couple of hours sleep in, have a shower, get some breakfast, come back, because I'll always try to get back to the on a home game, like on a Sunday 5:30 face off. I try to get to the rink 6 hours before, because a lot of players will get there 3 hours before, so it gives you 3 hours to clean, set up, do if there's any equipment fixes, take a gander to Boots for a meal deal with Pountney and Smalley. You know, that's a game day tradition. And it all depends, but after Scotland on a Saturday night and then home game on a Sunday is a tough one. It's a tough adjustment. However, you've got to think you only do it half a dozen times a year. It's not like it's every weekend. But then you think of guys like Taff in Belfast who has to fly or get the ferry to every single game. So I look at it like that. People like, at least we're not in Guildford, and Guildford, the way that Guildford have to go to Scotland, because that's like Guildford to Fife is what, 12 hours, 11, 12 hours.
Yeah, it's not nice.
And so I always think, we're in the West Midlands, so it actually could be a lot worse.
It could be. It could be.
And that's kind of like my outlook on most things in life. I think a lot of the players will tell you that, coaches will tell you that it takes a lot to really like. As long as I get my job done, I don't care. Like it takes a lot to really kind of like get me down and piss me off in that sense. And I think I only ever have once, and that was when we did a Belfast on the Saturday night. Me and Pountney drove, so we left at 3 a.m. I remember it was in January because the Royal Rumble on the wrestling was on. So we left at 3 a.m. We got there at like about 2:30 in the afternoon. So it was, yeah, 3.5 hours to Holyhead. Then we got on the boat, was delayed for an hour. Then we got on the boat, that was 3 hours. And then we did Dublin to Belfast, unpacked. I think we probably slept for about an hour on the boat. I'm on an awful seasick, so didn't really help. Got there, set up, did the game. Pountney went back to the hotel to sleep. We were leaving at 4 a.m. There's no time in that to get the kit dry. So I stayed up overnight, hand dried everything on glove dryers and with hair dryers. And I then slept in the van a little bit on the way back to Dublin. Then I was horrendous on the boat, horrendous seasick on the boat on the way back. Then I drove from Holyhead to Coventry, unpacked the kit. The players had literally beat us there. We then had a home game against Glasgow. So if a Scotland team come, you supply towels and stuff like that as well. So that's extra work. But you come back and like everything's still wet. You had no time to sharpen skates, anything like that.
Is
So you
that the
got all
norm?
that to do.
Is that the norm with all the teams supplying stuff for other guys?
Covent basically, if you go to Scotland, they'll supply towels at a
Yeah,
minimum.
yeah.
So then when you come back, that's one less thing you have. But that's only a new thing. And then we do it with Guildford as well. And then Belfast will supply us like all the refreshments like coffee, tea,
That's good.
and all that. Yeah, because you can't really fly with all that stuff. But then when Belfast come to us, they get exactly the same.
Same. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
good. Didn't know that.
yeah. So we have a WhatsApp group. There's 10 of us in the WhatsApp group, and we just communicate on there, which is nice.
That's good.
But yeah, that's the only one time where I really was probably pretty moody. And,
What about the time? What
made
about
a
the time
comment.
when last season when a fan thought you should take a second kit with you there to so there wasn't any kit clashes? I was fuming for every equipment manager in the league, but that I mean you've summed it up really. You
It
can't be bloody
kind,
doing that.
yeah, it kind of goes. I actually had a message from a fan to basically say I've ruined their night. So, and we had a little conversation about it, and I kind of explained like it is well documented throughout the whole league, and like we all, especially when it's an event like, it was Pride jerseys, right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Believe so.
So yeah, so a lot of teams, Pride is the only one where they will do home and away jerseys,
Yes.
specials.
Yeah.
So it's the only one where they do away jerseys as a special as well. So we all have an email from the league to say, and all the equipment managers were copied into them as well, to say if there's any jersey changes that we need to let the league know in advance, and then do your necessary communications as well. We have a WhatsApp. We all have each other's numbers. We call each other if we need anything. Like it's that simple. It was a genuine simple mistake from from Cardiff side, and they called 4 hours too late. We were already on the road. We were literally 20 minutes away from the arena. If there was something that I could have done, I would have honestly done it. It's really not an issue. But even if they even wanted to start with their normal jerseys for the first period and then get changed because they would say, "Oh, we'll pay someone to get an Uber." And I was like, "Listen, like by the time they get there, it's going to be the third period. It's really not worth it.
Hmm.
It's going to cost a fortune." And it just is one of them. And like accidents happen. No one is perfect. It is what it is. We still could play the game. It's not like we turned up with no jerseys. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
I still did what we were supposed to do. Um, I felt bad for them because like I've made the mistake before. I've gone to Guildford with our home jerseys before, and
Mm.
when we've got there, I've had to say, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Any chance you can wear your away jerseys?" If they want to turn around and say no, that's fully on them. Like
Yeah.
that's their right. But we all tried to help each other out. But in that situation, there was literally nothing that we could do. We were already there. We were literally 20 minutes away, and I did feel bad. But I don't think it's not anyone's fault. It's just I'm so sorry. We're just going to wear our jerseys next week. It's really not the end of the world. It
Is it?
depends
No.
it depends how you look at it. It really is. I understand they had a whole night like planned and stuff, but yeah, I don't think there's ever any excuse. And this goes for players, staff, anyone works in the office, whatever, coaches. There is never any excuse to message somebody to give them shit over doing their job. Like,
No. No. Unfortunately, this is the way of the world now. People are too cocky behind a keyboard.
yeah, it is what it is, mate. But I will give it to cannot remember the fan's name. Uh, Once she gets speaking about it, she's like, it wouldn't really be that difficult to just pack both jerseys. And I said, if you would see the size of my flight case and what we have to pack, like it is literally Tetris. Every away game, it is Tetris because you have to take all the catering. You have to fit 22 kit bags, sticks, all the physio stuff, the flight case, the catering. Like you have to fit all of this underneath a coach. And there's been plenty of times when the coach isn't big enough to fit all this, so we've had to drive. And it's like the last thing that you're going to think of is taking a
Mm.
different coloured jersey because it's the home team's right to swap the jerseys.
Yeah.
So it is it is what it is. I'm
Mm.
pretty sure it must have been the second game because I said, well, why don't you just wear your home Pride jerseys and then wear your away next week in Manchester? But I'm pretty sure they ended up then wearing their home Pride jerseys in Manchester the week after, which made
Well,
sense. But Scott, these are incidents that happen all the time behind the scenes, which people don't speak about. This one was just blown up.
no, no.
Like,
And
the,
I got a bit hot under the collar. I remember talking to you about it at the time. It just when people have no clue about what going. Are you perfect every day in your job? No, no one is.
no, nobody is like,
So, but yeah, it just you got no right to message. And I'm glad that collectively people called it out and it weren't happy. But
yeah. And again, it is like the lady that did message. It was do you know? No, do you know? she didn't even message me actually. I messaged her because of a comment that she'd made online.
Yeah,
And I just messaged to be like, hey, I'm the equipment manager. I promise you I'm not a scumbag, as you're portraying me to be. It really was too late. I didn't mean to ruin your night because that's how it was portrayed. I did it on
yeah,
purpose to ruin their night. Like it's actually even more so with Kevin, because he's very much a good guy. It's actually very wow. Like karma is a real thing. You give the team that are coming to you what they need to an extent. I'm not saying you'd have to go out your way and kind of fully kit them out and whatnot, but you don't make anyone's life harder. You make them comfortable when they come here. You make sure that their room is dry and warm and they have what they need. Also, there's going to be a point down the line where I'm gonna be somewhere and I'm gonna need something.
yeah,
What is the point in me saying no to somebody if they need something from me, which is like even if it's something expensive. I've been to Guildford before. Again, Guildford. I'm obviously awful, and I remember Drew Shistel says to me, we're leaving," and he says, "Got my sticks," and I went, "Okay, cool." It's very much that episode of Friends where Monica locks herself out of her apartment and says, "Got my keys,"
yeah,
and they walk out, and it's like, so it was my first year. I thought he said, "I got my sticks," because everybody else packed their sticks back then. Like it was. This is why I made it a point of we will now pack your sticks so
yeah.
that we know we've done our job. And he didn't pack his sticks. And then he texted me half an hour into the journey to say, "Hey, you did pack my sticks, didn't you?" And I said, "No, Drew, because you told me you have your sticks." He said, "No, I asked you if you've got my sticks." I said, "Well, then we've got a problem." And this was my first year. Stewie's a scary guy at the best of times, until you get to know him, and he's an absolute little teddy bear. But
His face tells a story, doesn't it?
yeah, he always used to say to me, "Well, why do people think I'm not approachable? You're scary. You're a scary man." And I remember having to, and I was only behind him, but that felt like the longest walk to him ever. And I said, "Oh, Mr. Stewart, I'm sorry. I've uh, I've left a player six behind." And to be fair to him, it was very much like accidents happen, but what are you going to do to fix it?
Yeah,
I didn't know the equipment managers at this point. I was very new, and we had to buy three sticks from Guildford at full price
no discount.
because uh, we get like our team price anyway. But it was still half a grand we didn't need to spend if
Exactly. Yeah.
and you look at things like this and you're like, oh my god, what an issue. He still went on to use them sticks for the rest of the season, and it was fine. He obviously broke them, but uh, yeah, so little things like that's massive. That's expensive. Um, but something got sorted, which
My
makes you a better person going forward, especially at your job. So me and Pountney now have a list. So if Jack Hopkins breaks a stick and doesn't have a spare, like they all have three sticks for a game. If they break two and we're on the road and they break two and then somehow they break their third, which is insane. It's only ever happened once. Then we know that the next step to him is right-handed will be Mike Kennedy, Archie Hazelden, and they're all the closest flex and curve.
yeah.
So we have our we're Kevin's big phrase is two steps ahead, and that's one thing that you have to be in this job at all times.
I'd love you at some point, not now during the season, but maybe one off season to share what you do, like your documents and your sheets. I think that'd be quite interesting for
We can
people
do
to
that
see. Yeah, not I
for
don't want to
sure.
share your secrets, but obviously just
It's
so
not.
people can understand what you're actually going through your spreadsheets. I mean, I'd love to have a nosy at that sort of thing.
You are invited to my office whenever you want
No
because I have
problem.
whiteboards on the wall. I have page a day diaries. I've got my iPad. I've got a skate sharpening guide. There's loads.
My favorite stick story is when I picked up a Blaze player a couple of years ago from the airport and he turned up with no sticks. And I opened up the boot to my car and I just remember Keno walking in. And obviously, Keno, the size he was, just fitted under the boot of my car. Scott, where's his sticks? And he ain't got brought any. And his face just dropped straight. And then
Scary.
he had to go to Willie's and get some
Yeah,
equipment. But
and quite literally because he probably arrived on a day where he probably arrived late on a day where players are already on the ice,
He did.
and it just is what it is. Sometimes you've just got to call an audible like that, and you've just got to do that, which is huge to have a hockey shop in our city. By the way,
Yeah.
I
Smashing it, aren't they?
smashing it like from they started just before I think I took the job with the Blaze, so 5 years ago, and they're now about to open
Yeah.
their fourth place, which is massive. The the things that they do for us as well, like if a guy needs their skates baking, if a guy needs a profile on their skate, there's certain different machines that you have to use. I don't have the space for a profiler, but Willys do. So they can go there and get them profiled, and Luke and Johnny and all the guys there would just they welcome him with open arms. I hope Mike Kennedy listens to this as well because he's a massive fan of Willys. Loves it. When the players first arrived, 15 players put their skates on the board for a skate sharpen before their first practice. Mike Kennedy thought he didn't want to add to my list of jobs, so took his skates to Willys,
Oh.
paid paid to get them sharpened.
What are they now? What's it? £8 now, is it?
I
What is
think
it
it's
for?
£8, which
Yeah.
you know is makes so much sense. Got to keep those, got to keep them fresh. Um, and yeah, and he's been back a couple of times since. I mean, he lives quite literally opposite it, but it's not the point.
No.
It's cool. I
We're
had to
not
tell him. Just want to get paid to do it.
we are not a podcast that does sponsors or anything like that. So it's not normally like us, but I will give a massive shout out to Willie's.
They are.
Willie's Ice Hockey Emporium. Have a Google for all your needs. I've known Johnny years. He's a madman. But yeah, fair play to the
Yeah,
guys there.
they really do a great job of getting it done, helping us out if we're ever in need. So, and they never ask anything from us, which they always can do. But
I'll
yeah,
wrap up with this one, Ethan.
great.
How difficult are players? And I know that it's not all hunky dory with 20 new guys. How, what are the little things that you just think, well, you're mad? You're going to have a few over the years that you just think, Jesus Christ, what's the maddest thing you've had a player say to you?
Okay, it's definitely a couple. There's little things that you look like I've learned when I go through as well, and I've like things I've never heard of. And this goes back to when I first said at the start, like you'll learn something new every day. But like Yanni Kivalati used to have this speed that you sharpen your skates. Like you get trained to sharpen skates, and it just is what it is. There's no right or wrong. Well, there definitely is wrongs, but it's like a fine art. You learn how to do it, and it just the speed that you do it, the weight that you hold the skates, all of this. There's so many different things to it. But it leaves like a pattern on the bottom of your blade, which he would call in Finland the fish scale effect, and that's how you get taught. That's how skates should be sharpened. Like they should. This is how they should look. And he was like, I can feel the scales on the bottom of my skate, and I was like, that is impossible. But he was like, no, no, trust me, I can feel it. So you used to have to grind his skates like 3 times as slow to everyone else's, which is fine because you wouldn't have to do them as much because it's basically just time and attention of when you're grinding them. But that was insane. Some of the tape jobs that guys have is wild, and I would just like to shout myself out. And Brady Norris can back me up on this. And Mike Regish, because Mike Regish scored his penalty shot at the weekend after I taped his stick. I can look at a guy's stick and I can duplicate their tape job, top and
Nice.
bottom. It's just a little special thing of mine. Um, I did many dozens of Brady Norris's sticks because he would break to a game and have no spares. So that's pretty crazy. There's a lot of when it comes to actual equipment, so shoulder pads, shin pads, stuff like that. Matthew Thompson had so many alterations, things that I never even thought of. So many alterations and extra bits added to his pads. And it's just like you don't even think of what injuries guys have had in the past and
Mm.
like all the extra things that they have to prevent injury going forward. But
Superstitions as well.
so many. Yeah, there's one player this year that has their skate sharpened backwards. So it doesn't matter if you we've kind of determined it as well. It doesn't matter if you go toe to heel or heel to toe,
Yeah.
but this player will only have toe to heel, their skate sharpened toe to heel, which I've done my research. I've asked about. Is there's no difference in how it feels on the skate, but
Because
yeah,
remember I remember you telling me about Yanni Larkinen's fucking was it his shin pads that he had for about 20 years, and then you
correct.
think about what we had Alex Nikiforuk with his old hat that he had for
Yeah,
they're just a special bunch, aren't they?
one of the most known in the league was Jonathan Phillips didn't change his shoulder pads from like juniors, and
Wow.
it was held on by like laces, like thread. Remember Smalley sending me a picture, and then I've seen him in person and was like, this is like a relic. It's insane. Like a lot of guys use equipment which like the companies aren't even a company anymore.
Yeah.
So
Belong in a museum.
yeah, there's so many. Each player has their own individual thing, and this is why you have to kind of take a step back and just look around and just be ready for things. I kind of credit my office that I have a lot of things that guys like, oh, is there any chance you have this? And I'll open my cupboard, it'll be there. Cotton buds deodorant, like they're like, there's no way you've got this in your office, and I'll open it
You're,
up.
you're like a shopping ball hill, you are.
Yeah. Kim comes to me for stuff all the time, and he makes jokes. He's like, "There's no way you've got this," and then I'll pull it out, and he's like, incredible, like Mary
Nice.
Poppins. You just got to
Uh,
be two steps ahead at all times.
yeah, right. This Blaze team, what can the Blaze this team do this year? Because a lot of people have written us off.
This team can do anything they want to do. Genuinely, this team can do it all. Like it actually shocks me. Back to the like anxiety of not knowing. I was and you get told don't read social media,
Yep.
don't comment on anything. We're actually anyone like, if you're involved in the team, like you'll never like Rob Coleman and stuff. We're not allowed to comment on anything.
Yep.
Um, it can land us in trouble. So which is why we just don't. So you look at all this stuff and it's just like pathetic, pathetic. Like give them a chance. Do you know what I
Yep.
mean? And I think we've shown so far as well. It's just incredible to watch. And again, there's no disrespect to anyone that did it before, any coach that did it before. But the way that these guys have just all bought in, no one's there for themselves. Like they're there for
Yep.
the team, which is great to see. Because I think I've probably must have said this 2 dozen times, but last year on paper we had an all-star team.
Mm.
We had an elite league all-star team on paper. You had your Christo, McNulty, Cozen, Thompson. We literally had a player from each big team, and you just couldn't. I just couldn't understand the chemistry. Like great team, great guys, but even from teams before and you can't have a well knit like chemistry team every year.
No.
It's not going to happen, and you don't know that higher in the players. So when a lot of people seen, oh, Kevin's just got another college player. Kevin's just got another college player. Oh, look, this one's from Princeton as well. Oh, this one went to Adrian. Do you not think he's done that on purpose?
No, yeah.
Like he knows every single player that he signed.
I called it the money ball.
Yeah, my point exactly, which is one of the greatest films of all time. And funnily enough, I was explaining to my parents 2 hours ago. We were going through Netflix. I said, "Moneyball, great film." So it's huge.
Yes.
It's like have to watch it. I said it's about a low budget team. I said it literally reminds me of the Blaze,
Yeah.
and it's the same as like the Miracle on Ice thing. Like we're not getting the best players, we're getting the right ones, and that's
Yeah.
exactly how it feels. And the qualities that are being ingrained every day, and the things that the players are doing on and off the ice every single day with each other, and the check-ins, and just they there's just so many little things that they're doing, which is showing on and off the ice, and it's building up to already be. It's going to be really exciting. There's going to be highs, there's going to be lows. It happens with every team, and some more than others. But I've always said, oh, that I do my job regardless of the hockey. Where I'm excited to actually watch. So,
Good.
and that's cool. I'm always excited to watch, but like you just don't know what's going to happen. Anything can happen, and that's the thing. That's the beauty of this sport as well, and that's the beauty of this team. And yeah, it's cool, man. I don't know how to explain it. That's probably the best way I can explain it
No, it's good.
without being disrespectful to anyone else.
Spot on, mate.
What's your
Ethan.
thought? What's your thoughts?
Oh, mate.
I'm interested.
I'm really excited. I like it's kind of the Coventry way that if your team works hard for the fans will love them, and that's what the
Exactly
guys are
that.
doing.
Exactly.
Um, I think I think we gave Nottingham a little bit too much respect in the first game. I think we were a bit timid going into that game, and maybe a little bit with the Sheffield game. I don't think we started the two games very well, but
Yeah, I agree.
in the 60th minute, we're still there, and that's all. So if we can get the full, we cliche, if we get the full 60, we'll be dangerous for any team.
It's that first 20 minutes. However, it's a lot of guys' first 20 minutes against
100%.
teams.
Yeah,
So, you don't know what to expect. You can match the energy and you can go higher. One thing you can't do is be lower than their energy. So,
exactly.
um, I'm excited for the games coming up,
Yes.
and for sure, Guildford's going to be a great test this weekend. But good place to play. And then at home against the Nottingham Panthers,
Uh, let's see if they roar.
they can't. I've heard
Like Carthage. Ethan,
they
thanks for
cannot.
your time, mate.
Hey, appreciate you, buddy.